Welcome back to the channel and welcome to my 1967 Chevy C10 build. Today we're going to jump right in by installing this Boyd Welding fuel cell, a disc brake kit, and setting the engine and transmission. To start off the fuel cell install, I installed this pan hard bar from Performance Online. The fuel cell is going to mount right where I'm standing, so it's going to be a little more difficult to put this in, so you might as well put it in now while you have full access. My son Walker gave us a hand with getting the pan hard bar set, and I think he was pretty happy being able to use the mallet. Here we're doing a test fit of the fuel cell. You can see it is really tight to that rear cross member, so we just want to make sure that we get the fuel cell sitting in the right spot. Now I'm transferring the holes from the mounting plate to the mounting tab on the fuel cell. You'll get a better idea on how this all goes together here in just a second. Once I got everything lined up with the mounting bracket, it was time to transfer those measurements and those holes to the frame. Now drilling through these frames is a little tough, so I definitely recommend you pick up a couple of brand new drill bits. It makes the job go much faster. I had Lauren give me a hand getting the fuel cell set in place. Just grabbed a couple of clamps, got it set to the frame, and I was able to start bolting everything together. Now that all my bolt holes line up, I can secure the mounting plate to the frame with these Allen head screws and finish securing all of my fasteners. After I mounted the Holley fuel filter regulator, I started to run the AN fuel lines. Now this is the first time that I had ever made any lines, but it's actually really easy. I wrapped the line with electrical tape where I was going to cut it. I just used my cutoff wheel to make a clean cut right through the line. And you're going to have some debris in here, so you're going to want to blow it out. But once you clear the line, you can install the hose ends. Once you have the hose ends set in place, you simply tighten them down, and that's it. I do recommend picking up a AN wrench. It's going to make the installation process much easier, and you're not going to mar the edges of the AN line, because keep in mind these are aluminum hose ends, so they're very easy to damage or cross thread. So you just want to be really careful when you're messing around with these hose ends. And there you go. That's the finished product. That's one fuel hose complete. Looking back on this install, I wish I left a little more slack on the lines that ran to the tank. I should have enough room to drop the tank down and be able to disconnect those hoses, but I wish I just left a little bit more slack so I had more room to play with. So here was the absolute best part of the install. I want you to listen really closely to this little sound right here. Did you hear that little click? That was the sound of me cross-threading those threads right there. And this is on the fuel pump outlet, so an extremely important part of the fuel cell, but thankfully I was able to pick up a bottom tap and repair those threads, but a scary moment nonetheless. All right, now we can install our CPP 4-wheel disc brake kit. My son Walker was able to help me assemble some of these parts. It's nice working on new painted parts, so you're not getting all dirty and greasy. And I already ran all the brake lines. That was just a stock kit, but it was stainless steel. The brake lines just went right back in their original location. Teaching them how to take off a wheel here. See if he can get it. There you go, buddy. Got to give him a hand every once in a while.
Cleaning up all the oil.
Just a little tip or reminder for anyone doing brake work. You always want to clean your rotor surface before you let the brake pads touch it. If it's covered in grease, oil, or grime, it could gum up the pads. So just make sure you get them nice and clean.
You want to help me with this part?
And the bracket that Walker was helping me put on this caliper is actually the mounting bracket for the CPP modular drop spindle. So these do mount a little bit differently than stock spindles. You have to get this mounting bracket with this style of spindle. Installing the rear calipers are very similar to the front. You install this bracket onto the caliper, then you install the caliper onto the axle, and then you can run your brake lines and make sure everything moves freely. Now on the rears, we do install our e-brake cable, and the cable runs along the trailing arm up to a little mounting point, and you put a C-clip in to hold it in place. We've made some really good progress over the last couple of days. We got our Boyd Welding fuel cell installed with the fuel lines and fuel filter. We got our disc brake kit installed with our brake lines. So now it's time to turn our attention to the LS1. My dad and I pulled this motor out of a 1999 Z28 Camaro. The previous owner to the car blew the original LS1 that was in it, and he picked up a Napa remanufactured LS1, put about 15,000 miles on that, then blew his transmission. He then put in a genuine GM remanufactured transmission, then he blew his rear end. So he got sick of the car at that point, sold it to me for super cheap. So I got this car for a steal, and this video of us pulling the engine is about 5 years old. So I've had this motor and transmission for a while, and I cannot wait to put this in my C10. What a way to pull an engine and transmission. Have you guys and gals ever done anything like this? Because this motor and trans did not see much road use, it's actually really clean. So all of this dust coming off of it is essentially from sitting in my storage unit for the last 5 years. Finally got this engine ready for paint. What I spent the most time doing was just taping everything off and getting everything ready to go and just getting in those little nooks and crannies. So what we're gonna do now is just get this sucker in primer and get it painted. For the paint, I went with Eastwood's 2K Aero Spray Primer and Engine Paint. This is a great 1-2 combination that's gonna prep the metal for the paint, and it's gonna last for a very long time. Look at how good that fresh coat of paint looks on this motor. I'm hoping it does last for a very long time because I don't plan on pulling this engine out once we get it in the truck. Famous last words. I also opted to swap out this F-body oil pan with a Holley oil pan. You should be able to use an F-body oil pan with a C10 LS swap, but Holley was such a big supporter of this build that I opted to use one of their low-profile oil pans. This pan comes with a new pickup tube, which pushes the oil pickup a little bit further back, and we have to take off this windage tray right here to make some modifications. You just have a little material to remove right in this corner and then right on the main part. So we're gonna mark this out real quick. All right, so check this out. Boom, there you go, see? Follow your diagram. Let's figure out how we're gonna cut this thing. I'm gonna move that out of the way. All right, we got the windage tray cut up, so let's clean it up and throw it back in the LS1. One tip on reinstalling this windage tray and oil pickup tube is to be very careful when you're reinstalling the oil pickup tube. There's an O-ring at the end where it goes into the oil pump. If that O-ring is torn, you may have oil delivery issues. Once you get everything torqued down, you rotate the assembly to make sure everything clears, and now you can move on to installing the baffle with some blue Loctite and finish prepping the oil pan to go on the motor. Don't forget to lay down a thick bead of silicone where the casings meet in each corner to help prevent oil leaking. I had Lauren give me a hand guiding this drivetrain in place. I know she loves helping me in the garage. I noticed when I got the motor sitting on the mounts, the transmission was hitting the transmission cross member, even with the transmission mount where it was supposed to be. So I've been eyeing some Hooker Blackheart transmission and motor mounts, and I think I'm gonna order a set of those. But this is a good feeling because now we finally have the LS1 in the frame. It's been a long time coming. What do you guys and gals think of Project Last Chance so far? Drop a comment below. I'm curious to hear what you think about this build. Also, be sure to tune in for the next episode where I install the front accessory drive, the intake, finish the fuel system, and install our all-aluminum radiator. But that's going to do it for me on this one, guys and gals. I really appreciate you watching. I'll see you in the next video.